update as to what's been happening, and then David is going to give you a little live demo, which doesn't often happen on activity group updates, but we thought it could be fun. So first of all, I have to admit, on John's Facebook page, a few years ago he posted this, which his mom and dad had found. Apparently, I think he said it was like 1988 or something. Anyway, what a handsome chap. Yeah, he does, and he's still got the same hair now that he has then, which I'm hyper jealous of. Okay, so we've been doing ground to cloud to ground activity group for the last couple of years. I'm going to stand somewhere like here because Tina's going to frown at me for moving too far away from the podium. And we broke it into segments. We've been working on this for the last couple of years. First of all, a reminder, this is a picture I've been using for the last 4 years, ever since we tried to justify doing this work. We are moving into compute for live production. And moving into compute means we want compute native data handoff within the compute-to-compute software instances, and that's inherently non-linear. We've burnt a lot of time making compute stuff conformant to 2110-21, which was very carefully crafted to make sure that we didn't use precious UDP packets on switch fabric. But 2110 is not appropriate for handing off between compute. We need an asynchronous or non-linear way of doing that, and that's specifically what we've sought to address here. So we've got the linear bits and we've got the non-linear bits, and the GCCG work has been looking to address both of those. So a very quick status update, then I'll unpack a few bits. So the ground to cloud and the cloud to ground bits, really the work we did on that was relatively straightforward, relatively early. It was defining operating points for existing compression, and also using things like TR09, which we'd already defined, which in its turn referenced some of the tunneling done in RIST, etc., etc., etc. Then we got on to doing the cloud to cloud, which took a fair bit longer. And you may remember that just ahead of NAB last year, we published a draft on GitHub, and I'll unpack it in a minute, but that's actually been going through quite a lot of iteration as we've actually been prototyping it. So as various people have been doing prototyping, we've actually undone that. So key requirements, this is just an example, this is a non-exhaustive list of stuff that's important about when we're trying to deploy software on compute for doing live production. Then there's this great slide which John has shown several times, which we created in the early days, which basically shows the interop points. So down the bottom there is the easy bit, the ground to cloud and the cloud to ground, which at the moment in our mindset is linear. But actually, you know, I hypothesize that actually in the future it may be that the camera itself has a non-linear asynchronous output. As long as it's time-stamped, that's absolutely fine. So we may not have any linear connectivity at all. But the important bit that we've been working on, and we're going to come to more, is that yellow horizontal line, which is the delineation point for the different applications running in software. Yeah, those bits are done. And that one, it says work in progress, but effectively it's been drafted for 10 months now, and we've just been refining. So I think I've actually covered this bit already by talking about what's so important here. We've been through a lot of stuff. I always put this diagram up because it shows we've actually been thinking about things and thinking about the aggregate impact on latency as we actually look at the applications and they're pulled through. Again, you don't need to read all of this. This is a consensus. You can read it in the notes afterwards. But it's talking about several things. We've changed our minds on stuff as we've been gone, because 2 years is a long time in compute. And you know, we were originally going to go for standard 2110 style P group packing, and we've actually moved because 16-bit planar for video is actually much more forward-looking, and things like that. So we've evolved things as we've gone. I want to address the elephant in the room. Because we've been lovingly doing this work for the last 2.5 years, and the EBU have been doing their thing. I mean, in evolving what's in it, a very, very good document that you can download called the DMF, and that's actually available. They published it just ahead of IBC. Felix is doing a keynote on this tomorrow morning, so make sure you're here at 10:30, I think, to actually hear that. And I'll say this again in a minute, but the rest of the day is going to be expanding that. Really, we're going to cover a lot of this stuff tomorrow. But the question is, where do we sit with what we've done in GCCG versus what DMF has been working on and has now instigated within the industry in the last handful of months? And tease you, Felix may have some opinions on that he'd like to share tomorrow. There's also other stuff that's coming up, like the BBC's initiatives on time addressable media, which is very related and very easily able to plug into the architectures that I think are being discussed in a lot of these areas as well. So we'll cover to that. Just want to talk briefly about the demo, because you are able to witness this very day, for the first time ever, a live demonstration of the GCCG API in operation. If we had a drum, I'd do a drum roll for you now. So what we've got is, we have got a number of cameras and sources coming from the UK, coming live from here, and within Norway, going into a server that's hosted in our facility in Oslo, a compute instance which is doing the accelerated SRT receive. RIST is also available, and it's obviously better. There's AVC decode, and we decode it to 16-bit planar video and hand that off to David's Frame software, which actually does various video processing, logo insertions, video switching, etc. Then it comes back via another GCCG API into other processing, which we do, and then compression, which then gets launched to the ground. So that's the workflow. You can see it operating downstairs, but also, hopefully, this is when I'm really nervous. So we're going quite a long distance there. Let's give it a try. So can we switch the video feed? And I'm going to hand David to do a 30...
Is this one working? Is this one working? Yes.
It is.
Right.
Do an executive 30-second summary.
He's met me before. So we've got the 3 feeds down the left-hand side. We've got the loop that's playing out in Ipswich. This feed coming off the satellite receiver.
UK.
Yeah, home for us, nearly. And then we've got the camera downstairs on the demo table, so if you want to come find us, you can guess from the angle of that. We've got a couple of singular live Uno instances that are producing key and fill for graphics, so that we can change our logos on screen if we wish to, have 2 appear, swap those around. This is the output feed that is going to be presented to the GCCG stream that's being sent, and we can switch our feeds on here as well, so we can switch between different sources. If you come downstairs, you can see the latency we're at the moment. We are running on hotel Wi-Fi and all kinds of bits of networking, so there are some issues around that. But all of this is 16-bit video in our processing chain.
So do come and check it out in any of the other breaks that we've got, or this evening, once we come downstairs. So hopefully that's a good overview for you. Can you switch back? I don't think I've got too much else to say, other than, do come along tomorrow. So I think from 10 o'clock onwards, or 10:30 onwards, right through, we've got a panel session where we're going to be rounding up and discussing this once we've had all the different presentations that relate to this tomorrow. So a really heavy set of topics there, but it's going to be fun, and we're going to get some good progress. And don't forget, next time you're in the UK, come to me for a cup of tea. Thank you very much. Thank you, David.
I was just going to add to that as we now have the appear and frame bits working, we are keen to work with other people who want to get something implemented. So
we're just the first 2 people to have got there. So anybody else that's actually got an implementation, we'd love to sandbox with you as well. Thank you very much.
Cool.